Hello, Kentucky. Mitch Barnhart probably surprised even Pope. He commented that the program doesn't go up and down, despite Marrow's departure. Will the big dog be missed on this football team? The departure of Vince Marrow, a pillar of the Kentucky football program over the last decade, could easily be interpreted as the beginning of a crisis for the Wildcats. After all, few names carry as much weight in the recent context of the program as Marrow, who built his reputation as a relentless recruiter and a vital link between the state of Kentucky and the school's football team. However, the firm and thoughtful response from Mitch Barnhart, Kentucky's director of athletics, challenges that narrative. Rather than succumb to the idea that Marrow's departure represents the collapse of a golden era, Barnhart chose to view the move as a sign of evolution, not just for the program, but for the college football landscape itself. The program doesn't rise and fall on one person, Barnhart told the Herald leader. That statement, while blunt, carries a deeper message. Kentucky is built on solid foundations, not relying solely on individual figures, but rather on a collective structure that allows the team to adapt to the inevitable changes in the game. Marrow's departure for Louisville, an in-state rival and now a safe haven for his next chapter, certainly hurts. But Barnhart made sure to emphasize that Marrow's legacy will be immortalized in Lexington, while emphasizing that Kentucky's future is not tied to a single name, no matter how iconic. Barnhart's pragmatic view is a clear reflection of the transformations college football has undergone in recent years. With increasingly flexible rules on transfers and player portals, and the growing importance of modern recruiting strategies, the role of coaches and assistants has also had to adapt. The world of college recruiting has changed, Barnhart said, referring to the need to balance youth, experience, and maturity within a roster. This new reality requires programs to be prepared to adjust their approaches without losing the essence that defines them. And it seems that Mark Stoops and his staff are ready to do just that. Stoops, who has already proven himself by becoming the winningest coach in Kentucky history, continues to be the guiding light for the program moving forward. His vision and leadership have been instrumental in taking the Wildcats to previously unimaginable heights, and Barnhart seems confident that the work will continue even after Marrow's departure. The athletic director was emphatic in acknowledging the impact that Stoops and his coaching staff have had on the program's development, noting that many of the recent accomplishments are the result of a collective effort, not just one or two individuals. However, it would be naive to ignore the challenges that come with Marrow's departure. Known as the Big Dog, he was a near-legendary figure in local recruiting, especially when it came to attracting talent from the state of Kentucky itself. His ability to connect with local players and families was unmatched, and his absence will certainly leave a gaping hole early on. But as Barnhart pointed out, that gap isn't a collapse. Rather, it could be an opportunity for other members of the coaching staff to emerge and prove themselves. Furthermore, Kentucky's rapid recruiting momentum of late, including 3 commitments added this week and a strong class of transfer students, suggests that the program is far from stalled. Barnhart also addressed the program's disappointing 4-8 campaign in 2024, calling it a one-year mistake and a little lull. This cautious optimism reflects a belief that the team is in transition, not decline. The athletic director's words seem to be echoed by the current group, which he said had a productive spring both on the field and in the classroom. This combination of athletic and academic performance is an indication that the program's core values remain intact, even in the face of adversity. With the arrival of new talent like Cameron Miller and other commits from the 2026 class, it's clear that Kentucky is working to ensure that the future is as bright as the recent past. The ability to attract high-level players even after Marrow's departure shows that the program is still seen as an attractive destination for young athletes. Let's keep moving forward. Speaking of Marrow, the longtime friendship between Marrow and Mark Stoops, forged on the tough streets of Youngstown, has long been seen as one of the pillars of Kentucky's continued success in recent years. However, as details emerge about the outcome of their partnership, it's clear that even the strongest bonds can be tested by a lack of communication, a seemingly simple but crucial element in any relationship. Marrow, known as Big Dog, was explicit that his decision to leave Lexington was not motivated by personal conflicts or irreconcilable differences with Stoops. Rather, he stressed that the two have never fought and that their decades-long bond remains intact. "We're from Youngstown. We've known each other a long time," Marrow said during an interview with 840 WAS Radio. That quote encapsulates the history the two have shared, from their roots in Youngstown to their triumphs and challenges in Kentucky. What is clear from Marrow's words, however, is that while their friendship remains, their professional relationship has begun to show signs of strain in recent years. The main point of contention, Marrow said, was a recent miscommunication. He explained that both he and Stoops are men of few words, hard-working men who often prefer to act rather than talk. This leadership style, while effective in many ways, can create rifts when expectations and feelings are not articulated. He and I are similar. We're both very blue-collar, and we kind of like the guy who won't talk to his wife and you. Just assume, and then all of a sudden, hey, it's a problem, Marrow said. This analogy reveals a dynamic that has perhaps been underestimated over the years. A lack of open dialogue can lead to misunderstandings, especially in a high-pressure environment like college football. The turning point appears to have come in the first 20 days leading up to his departure. Marrow said that if they had spoken earlier in the season, Stoops would have had a better understanding of why he was feeling dissatisfied and why he saw the Louisville opportunity as a new chapter in his career. When I told him, I was like, hey, this is changing, this is a great opportunity. I'm going to work for another friend, and I really believe this is the new college football, Marrow said, referring to the chance to work with Louisville coach Jeff Brom. That statement suggests that Marrow viewed his move not as a permanent departure, but as a natural evolution within the sport, where administrative roles and recruiting strategies are taking on new forms. Interestingly, Marrow's new role at Louisville seems to reflect that transition. He will take on a more administrative role, similar to that of a general manager, focusing on fundraising and recruiting decisions. That description echoes Eddie Grant's current role at Kentucky, which raises questions about how the internal dynamics at the Joe Kraft football training facility may have influenced Marrow's decision. Reports indicate that he had lost some of his recruiting clout in recent months, something that may have contributed to his dissatisfaction and search for new opportunities. The timing of the split, however, was marked by a lack of clarity that added tension to the process. Marrow did not even directly inform Stoops of his decision to leave the program. The news was initially reported by ESPN's Pete Thamel. This indirect form of communication certainly made the final conversation between the two difficult and emotional. At first, it was a difficult conversation because it was emotional. We're both tough guys, but we've known each other for a long time. We love each other, Marrow said. Despite the heavy tone at first, the two seemed to have reached a mutual understanding, acknowledging that their personal friendship transcends football. This split marks the end of an era at Kentucky. Since 2012, Marrow has been by Stoops' side, helping to build a program that has reached unprecedented heights. His absence will be felt, especially in terms of local recruiting, where he was virtually unbeatable. However, as Mitch Barnhart has previously pointed out, the program is not dependent on one person. Marrow's departure could represent an opportunity for other members of the coaching staff to take on more prominent roles, and for Kentucky to continue its growth trajectory. And what can you do, right? The comparison between Vince Marrow and Rick Pitino is inevitable, and not just because of the geography of their professional destinies. Both represent turning points in Kentucky sports, where the rivalry between the University of Kentucky, UK, and Louisville, UFL, transcends the field and becomes a matter of regional identity. But what is most striking about these two episodes, separated by more than 2 decades, is the way both coaches used love for the state of Kentucky as justification for their moves to the opposing team. This narrative, while compelling on the surface, carries with it a complexity that reflects both the politics of college sports and the emotional dynamics of loyalty and opportunity. When Rick Pitino accepted the Louisville job in 2001, he was returning to the state he had already transformed into a springboard for personal glory. Pitino left Kentucky on a high note, having rebuilt the Wildcats basketball program after the scandals of the 1980s, and led the team to 3 NCAA finals, including 2 national titles. When he left for the NBA, he was seen as a visionary. When he returned, this time in red, he was seen by many as a traitor. Still, Pitino made the case that his love for the state of Kentucky was undeniable, a statement that rang with sincerity, but also with a dose of convenience. He knew the Louisville job was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a prestigious position at an emerging program in the state he considered home. Marrow, on the other hand, faces a slightly different but equally symbolic situation. His direct move from Lexington to Louisville echoes a decision that is even more poignant, given the temporal and emotional proximity to his former program. For more than a decade, Marrow was a central figure in recruiting and building Kentucky football, helping to shape the team that now competes at the highest level in the SEC. Not only has he built deep relationships with local players and families, but he has also become a symbol of the program's renaissance under Mark Stoops. As such, his departure for Louisville, even in pursuit of new opportunities, is seen by some as something of a betrayal. It is in this context that Marrow echoes Pitino in using his love for the state of Kentucky as a justification for his decision. He emphasizes that his new role at UFL allows him to remain in the state he has adopted as his home, while preserving the connections he has built over the years. But how much of this love for the state rhetoric is enough to mitigate the criticism? The answer, as always, depends on perspective. For the most passionate fans, especially those at BBN, it can be difficult to separate institutional loyalty from personal choice. Marrow, like Pitino before him, is navigating turbulent waters. He knows that his public image will inevitably be redefined, at least in the short term. His official statement attempts to mitigate this transition by thanking Kentucky and expressing gratitude for the friendships he has formed. But words written in a statement can rarely erase the visceral sense of loss and betrayal that accompanies a move to an in-state rival. Pitino's case offers an interesting precedent for understanding how such transitions can evolve over time. When he took over at Louisville in 2001, many Kentucky fans viewed him as a traitor. His subsequent stints at Rupp Arena were marked by boos and tension. But over time, that began to change. Pitino's work at Louisville, where he brought 2 national titles and built a competitive program, was eventually recognized by even his most vocal critics. The final reconciliation came in 2024, when Mark Pope, Pitino's former captain at Kentucky, brought his old coach back to Rupp Arena for Big Blue Madness. The warm reception from fans was a cathartic moment, a demonstration of how time can heal wounds and allow controversial figures to be seen in a new light. For Marrow, the road back to the heart of BBN may be even longer and more complicated. While Pitino had the benefit of having been an absolute icon at Kentucky before his departure, Marrow is leaving at a time when his popularity is still entirely tied to the recent success of the football program. But who knows how it will go? I want to hear your opinion now.